Have you ever felt like you walked onto a first date only to find yourself unexpectedly taking an oral exam? You're navigating the complex dance of modern romance, seeking an authentic connection, and then, BAM! You hit a wall of subtle challenges, confusing behaviors, or outright provocations. If you've ever been left scratching your head, wondering if her actions were a red flag or a secret invitation, you've stumbled upon one of love's most ancient psychological puzzles. The days when romance was solely defined by fairy tales and grand gestures are long behind us. Today, individuals, particularly women, aspire to build strong, enduring partnerships that can truly withstand the test of time. In this landscape of modern love, it is common for both partners to engage in a subtle yet intricate dance of discovery, often taking the form of what many describe as testing. It's a complex screening tool driven by a deep, innate desire to delve into a potential partner's character, intentions, and values before investing their whole heart. This phenomenon is not necessarily a calculated, malicious game. Instead, it is often an unconscious, instinctual process, a way for her mind to gather crucial information about the man she sees as a potential lifetime partner. Think of it as her chaos meeting your order. Her internal world, magnified by the vulnerability of falling in love, is checking to see if your foundation is sturdy enough to build a future upon. But to truly understand why this happens, we must go deeper than surface behavior and look into the evolutionary and attachment frameworks that govern the human heart. The evolutionary imperative, the cost of a false. Positive from an evolutionary psychological perspective, the phenomenon of boundary testing and commitment skepticism is rooted in a fundamental biological asymmetry between the sexes. Throughout human history, women faced substantial childbearing and child-rearing costs, far greater than those faced by men. This difference in obligatory parental investment means that the sex with the highest investment, in humans, generally women, is bound to be the most choosy and cautious when selecting a mate. The stakes are incredibly high. If a woman misjudges a partner's sincerity and commits to a man who will later abandon her, the cost to her fitness, that is, reproducing without an investing partner, can be considerable. Psychologists refer to this critical survival mechanism as error management theory, EMT. Essentially, EMT predicts that mental processes evolve to favor biases that minimize the most costly error. For women gauging romantic intentions, the most costly error is a false positive, believing a man is committed when he is not. To minimize this danger, women have developed an evolved bias towards skepticism regarding men's commitment. They tend to underestimate a male partner's willingness to commit, and this bias is strongest when the risk of pregnancy without a supportive partner is greatest. This is not arbitrary distrust. It is functional, adaptive cognition designed to protect against abandonment. When a woman demonstrates this commitment, skepticism, she requires substantially more behavioral evidence, a higher commitment threshold, to feel certain of her partner's dedication compared to what a man requires. She needs compelling proof that you are the real deal, someone who will provide security, resources, and emotional support, thereby allowing her to pass on her genetic legacy safely. She seeks commitment not merely as a romantic ideal, but as an essential mating strategy that ensures provisioning and protection for her and her potential offspring. Insecurity as the blueprint. The attachment dynamic. This evolutionary caution is deeply interwoven with a modern psychological framework, attachment theory. Our attachment style, formed in infancy through our relationship with primary caregivers, acts as a blueprint, shaping our expectations of love, safety, and connection in adulthood. For women, insecure attachment styles, anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, often manifest as the underlying drivers behind boundary testing, reflecting a struggle between the desire for profound intimacy and the fear of the potential pain it brings. The anxious, preoccupied tester. Clinging to avoid the void. The woman with an anxious, preoccupied attachment style lives with a palpable, overt, and constant fear of abandonment. She seeks high levels of intimacy, approval, and responsiveness from her partner. When she tests, she is often doing so to secure the love she craves, pushing back against the anxiety that flares up in the face of uncertainty. Her testing mechanisms are often driven by overdependency or a frantic need for reassurance. She might constantly seek validation, worry excessively when her partner is away, and feel uneasy whenever he is out of contact. In relationships, this translates to behavior that appears clingy or overly demanding. The irony is that while she craves closeness, she struggles to trust the intimacy she receives, creating a dynamic that often leads to relationship ruptures, a self-fulfilling prophecy of her deepest fears. For the anxious, preoccupied individual, setting boundaries is incredibly difficult. She is likely to let crossed boundaries slide or fail to follow through on limits she tries to establish, precisely because the fear of abandonment outweighs her need for self-respect. She fears that asserting her own needs will push her partner away. This insecurity compels her to try and earn love and connection, sometimes by overextending herself, suppressing her needs, and taking responsibility for her partner's emotions, believing her worth depends on keeping the relationship intact. The avoidant and disorganized dancers, the push-pull paradox, on the opposite side of the spectrum, the avoidant attachment style, dismissive or fearful, tests by creating distance. This woman operates under the core belief that needing others is a weakness, or, if I get too close, I'll lose myself. She views emotional intimacy as equivalent to pressure, overwhelm, or even danger, often because her emotions were historically dismissed or discouraged. When she tests, it is frequently through withdrawal, emotional shutting down, or outright dismissal of concerns. Her primary boundary struggles involve setting overly rigid or strict boundaries designed to maintain her distance and avoid dependence. She may find it hard to rely on others and struggles to regulate her emotions when stressed, leading her to push her partner away strategically, even if she loves him. The disorganized attachment style, which is often a chaotic combination of both anxious and avoidant traits, struggles the most. She craves deep intimacy but pushes her partner away when he gets too close, feeling trapped, paranoid, or overwhelmed. People with this style often have minimal tolerance for intrusion of their personal space, fearing intimacy and rejection simultaneously. This individual may even feel insulted or threatened when her partner attempts to set healthy boundaries. She is testing the bond, swinging wildly between craving connection and feeling the desperate urge to run, because she does not yet know what she wants or how to trust safety. The 8 boundaries, crossed to get a rise. Some testing goes beyond the subtle probing for commitment and ventures into patterns of manipulation aimed at gaining control or provoking a reaction. As a therapist, I recognize that these strategies are often deep-seated coping mechanisms, though they can be downright maddening for the receiving partner. The emotional push and pull. One moment she is showering you with affection, and the next, she is as cold as ice. This abrupt shift is strategic, designed to keep you guessing and perpetually needing her approval. It is a powerful boundary violation intended to test your commitment level and ensure you will stick around even when she pushes you away. The silent treatment. This is silence weaponized. When used to punish or avoid resolving an issue, this manipulative tool forces you to knock desperately on her emotional wall, making you feel guilty or desperate for her approval so that the issue can be resolved. The unfair game of comparison. My ex always knew how to handle situations like this, or John treats Sarah with such respect. These comments are loaded. By comparing you to others, whether an ex, a friend's partner, or a hypothetical ideal, she undermines your confidence and subtly pressures you to change, hoping to provoke you into trying harder to win her approval. 4. The test of jealousy. Intentionally stirring the green-eyed monster is a common tactic. She might casually mention a male coworker or an old flame texting her out of the blue. By deliberately making you jealous, she is crossing a boundary to evoke a reaction, perhaps to see if you care enough to get possessive, or to make you feel insecure, so you work harder to keep her. But remember this, as difficult as it is in the moment, jealousy is not proof of love. It is a toxic emotion that breeds distrust, the bait of criticism and exclusion. While outright criticism can pressure you to change, sometimes the boundary crossed is exclusion. She might discuss significant issues with others but leave you in the dark, or not invite you to social gatherings. This is a subtle method of control, sending the message that your presence or opinion is not important, thereby making you insecure and eager to win back her approval. The burden of overdependency. Making herself excessively reliant on you is another way a boundary is crossed. By seeking constant reassurance or practical support, She is often trying to make you feel indispensable and essential to her very existence, thereby testing your reliability and commitment to her needs. Testing boundaries directly. This involves deliberately pushing the limits of your comfort, perhaps by frequently asking for things you find uncomfortable, such as invading your privacy by looking through personal belongings or sending repeated messages during a fight. This tests how much you are willing to tolerate and the strength of your commitment. The dance of deflection. When she redirects blame, criticism, or responsibility away from herself and onto you, saying you did something wrong in the past when she makes a mistake now, she avoids accountability and keeps you off balance. This crossing of boundaries is intended to maintain control and provoke a defensive reaction. Decoding the subtle signals. What her tests really mean beyond these complex psychological patterns. Women employ numerous specific behaviors, the classic tests, all designed to gather diagnostic evidence of your character and intentions. These tests are her practical mechanism for functional flexibility, allowing her to relax her commitment skepticism when the signals are strong. The delayed response. Is she testing me by not texting back? Sometimes yes. She might purposely delay her response even if she's seen your message, to show you that she isn't spending all her time waiting for you. Her objective is to gauge whether you would see her as a desperate partner or if you respect her self-possession. Watching your manners. Women are observant, and manners profoundly matter. She is carefully watching to see if you are consistent with your promises and actions. Will you hold the door? Will you lend your coat when it gets chilly? These small actions signal consistency and underlying character. Insisting on splitting the bill. Though often framed in terms of financial independence, this gesture can be a test of your seriousness. She wants to know how committed you are before she allows herself to admit that she has fallen in love. It is a protective measure, the need for reliability. She may suddenly ask for your help, asking you to cook for her when she's sick or buy medicine, even if she is an independent woman. She is trying to figure out if you are someone she can truly rely on. Women want to know if they are a top priority in your life, especially when they are vulnerable. Repeating a topic. If she repeats one specific thing over and over again, she likely wants it but won't tell you up front. She wants you to read between the lines, ask more about it, and show that you know her deeply enough to recognize her desires without her having to state them explicitly. Introducing temptation. Taking you to a party filled with attractive people is an intentional check. She wants to see if you can resist temptation, if you would check out beautiful ladies or worse, talk and be overly friendly with them. It is a direct test of your loyalty and self-control. Canceling or postponing plans. This is a common test of patience and effort. If there is no valid reason or emergency, she may be testing how much effort you are willing to put in just to see her. If you are serious, you will make a way, one way or the other. Introduction to inner circles. Bringing you to meet her friends and family is a significant step because their opinions matter profoundly to her. This tests whether they will approve of your relationship and signals that she sees you as a potential long-term partner whose compatibility must be vetted by those closest to her. Refusing intimacy. When she avoids physical intimacy, she is often testing your real intentions. If she is considering settling down, a man only interested in physical intimacy would not be an ideal partner. She observes whether you become impatient or change the way you treat her when sex is off the table, determining if you are just playing or the real deal. Inquiring about the future. When she starts asking about your goals, plans, or ambitions, it means she is seriously considering you as a potential lifetime partner. She needs to feel secure with the man who will accompany her in fulfilling her dreams. Digging into the past. Her intense interest in your previous relationships is a direct test. She wants to feel secure that you are entirely over your ex-partners and that you are fully devoted to her. She needs assurance that history won't repeat itself. The paradox of pulling away. When love becomes frightening, one of the most unsettling forms of testing is the sudden retreat, or pulling away. This mystery, how someone who claims to love can create distance at the very same time, is often misunderstood as indifference or rejection. But frequently the opposite is true. The act of pulling back is born from the very intensity of her feelings. Love awakens vulnerability, which can be both exhilarating and exhausting. The closer she feels, the stronger her emotions grow, and the more exposed her heart becomes. Pulling away is her instinctive attempt to breathe and regain equilibrium in the face of overwhelming closeness. It's a way to regulate the intensity, creating a pause where she can gather herself again. The distance is not rejection, but a rhythm, like the tide pulling back before it surges forward. She may retreat because she fears losing herself inside the relationship, especially when the bond begins to occupy more space than expected. If she feels her personal boundaries softening or her individuality blurring, pulling away becomes an act of self-preservation. A woman knows, consciously or unconsciously, that a love built on the sacrifice of identity will not last. She needs reassurance that love will not consume her. It must complement her identity, not erase it. This distance also functions as a quiet experiment, a subtle test of whether the love can hold steady when she steps back. She observes. Will the connection remain patient, or will it crumble under pressure? Will her partner chase in panic or stand steady with trust? This is her search for emotional safety. If her distance is met with accusations, desperation, or pressure, the unspoken answer is clear: my heart is not safe here. But if it is met with calmness, respect, and patience, it proves consistency in the face of uncertainty, allowing her to return with greater confidence. The litmus test: how you respond to the challenge, whether the behavior is conscious or unconscious, rooted in evolutionary caution or fueled by attachment insecurity. How a man responds to these challenges is the ultimate determinant of the relationship's quality. Healthy, lasting relationships thrive not on games, but on trust, open communication, and mutual respect. Therefore, the strategy is not to win a test by trickery, but to respond with integrity and maturity, proving you are a stable partner worth the investment. Prove your strength through steadiness. The woman who tests boundaries is often looking to gauge your strength. She wants to see if you will stand firm in your values and principles. The biggest mistake a man can make is failing to act, making excuses for her behavior, or being afraid of losing her. When she senses weakness, a willingness to compromise self-respect just to appease her, her attraction plummets. The key is to show her that her actions have predictable consequences, demonstrating self-respect. If she flakes on plans, stop making them with her until she initiates and commits. If she disrespects you, calmly state that the behavior is unacceptable and step back. You do not need to yell or threaten. A calm, decisive withdrawal of attention speaks louder than words. When she realizes you won't tolerate nonsense, her attraction actually grows, because you signal that you are unshakable and lead your own life. Embrace empathy and active listening. Many tests stem from a need for reassurance or simply a desire to feel understood. Licensed professional counselor Christiana Nyoku emphasizes that every woman wants to be with a man who is ready to hear what she has to say, not just to hear, but to listen attentively and respond appropriately. If she tests your boundaries by expressing her need for desire, e.g., mentioning an admirer, respond with empathy. I understand that you might need to feel desired, but I want you to know how much you mean to me. Putting yourself in her shoes helps you grasp her perspective, fostering a healing dialogue rather than descending into conflict. When she attempts to probe your limits or push your buttons, take a step back, laugh it off casually, and show that it doesn't bother you. Communicating patience and emotional regulation. Establish and defend healthy boundaries. Boundaries are the ultimate litmus test for the quality of any relationship. Setting limits involves telling the truth about what makes you comfortable or uncomfortable. A healthy partner will welcome your boundaries. Accepting your separate opinions and recognizing that limits are necessary for a balanced connection. For an anxious, preoccupied partner who constantly intrudes on your time, you must express your limits respectfully. For example, if she repeatedly cancels plans last minute, calmly state, I understand that sometimes things come up, but I'd appreciate it if we could stick to our plans or communicate changes earlier. If a partner's testing crosses into emotional manipulation, character assassination, or abuse, you must express your limits without hesitation. If the sarcasm turns into an assault upon your self-worth, that is unacceptable, and you should exit immediately. When setting limits causes someone to attack or abandon you, it clarifies that the relationship lacked true intimacy from the start, as they only loved your compliance, not your complete self. The power of consistency, the true commitment signal. The deepest reassurance you can offer is consistency. If she tests your trustworthiness by checking if you will follow through on commitments, from small promises to important dates, you must consistently deliver. Being reliable and predictable builds the trust and confidence that the commitment skepticism bias is actively looking for. Commitment, particularly dedication, is about having the intention to persist in the relationship and serve the best interest of the couple. This commitment transforms daily exchanges, turning potential zero-sum scenarios into mutual investments. Sacrificing immediate self-interest for the good of the relationship, driven by commitment, is a potent behavioral signal that reduces the anxiety of loss and secures the romantic attachment. By providing unwavering evidence of dedication, you are not simply passing a test. You are actively building a healthy, secure foundation. In the end, the psychology behind why women test boundaries in love is profoundly human, rooted in the universal human need for security. Whether driven by evolutionary caution, the shadows of past trauma, or the inherent vulnerability that comes with deep affection, the underlying question remains the same. Am I safe here? The goal is not to decipher every hidden motive, but to recognize the need for reassurance and respond not with fear or games, but with the quiet, unwavering strength of self-respect, patience, and authentic commitment. When you choose to communicate openly and stand steady, you demonstrate that the love you offer is enduring, resilient, and unshakable, allowing her to finally lay down her armor and step forward with greater trust.